You're someone with a vision for your practice, for your side hustle, and for your personal journey. But when it comes to establishing your path on how to get to where you want to be with your practice, things get a little messy. You're also someone who'd prefer to go in person instead of to groups and listening to everyone else's story. To me, it sounds like you could benefit from one-on-one consulting with our experienced practice of the practice consultants. From $5.95 a month and up, you can work with a consultant that will give you more direction and practical, tried and tested tips matched to you and your goals. For more information, visit practiceofthepractice.com/apply. Again, that's practiceofthepractice.com/apply. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 1169. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast. I am so excited to have you here today. We help you build a thriving private practice that you absolutely love. We want you to thrive. We want you to do well, and we want you to love doing it. When I first started mental wellness counseling, the practice that I sold back in 2019, I remember being like, I need a website. And I put on Facebook, anyone know how to make a website? Or no, I said, anyone know someone that could make me a website? And a friend of mine, Monica, who I've interviewed a few times on the show, we actually just reconnected on LinkedIn. She was the very first person that gave me my very first client in private practice. She put on there, well, you could build your own website. And she was using this Microsoft, some Microsoft platform back then that the hosting was free. Everything was free. They just had these little tags at the bottom. And I thought, well, let me think about how to get people in here. So I thought, well, I'm helping like angry kids and couples. And so I took all these keywords and I made them in white in the background and then made the background white. So you couldn't see, but when you like highlighted the page, there were all these keywords. I thought I was being so smart. Then Google started digging websites and I had to get like a real website instead of what I was doing. But isn't that how we do it? Where we hear something from someone and they say, oh yeah, just start your own website, do this. We don't know if that's even like a good platform. We don't know if it's a good approach. There's no strategy to it. We just kind of wing it because we don't learn most of this stuff in grad school. And that's why on this show, I love bringing in experts that can actually talk about what we should be doing with things like websites. So today we're going to be talking about how do you actually get people to your website? How do you get them to book from your website? How do you do it in a way that isn't slimy like how I was doing it when I first started? So today we have Samantha Mabe, who is from Lemon and the Sea, designs strategic websites for health and wellness pros so they can show up in front of the right leads and get more patients into their practice. When she's not digging into design and strategy, Samantha loves reading. Her goal is to read 200 books this year and adventures with her very talkative kiddo. Samantha, welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Well, first, how many books did you read last year?
I think my final number was 231.
Holy mother. Wow. Is there one that stands out to you that impacted you more than maybe the others?
No, I have a couple that I go back to, a couple of fantasy series that I read every year that I really like. I don't read very many business books because I spend lots of time on business. So I stick with fiction in romance, horror, thriller, fantasy genres.
I love it. That's your Netflix, except
Yeah.
way healthier. Love it. And what kind of adventures do you do with your talkative kiddo?
We have to get outside a lot. He is always on the move. He is always talking. So I have a state park pass. We've visited state parks anywhere within a 2-hour radius of where we are. All of the local parks. He really likes hikes and anywhere he can jump in the water.
Yeah. Being in Michigan, we love the water. Well, tell me, how did you get into websites and design and, helping wellness professionals?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a roundabout story. So my bachelor's degree is in architecture. And after 4 years studying that, I decided I did not want to go back to school and do all of the exams and master's program and everything else that came with it. So I moved back home. I got a job working for an aluminum foundry. and doing some of their accounting, which I was not trained in at all, but they learned that I knew some design stuff, so they had me do design for their business as well. And then after about 3 years, my husband got a job in Virginia, so we moved here. And I ended up freelancing for that company I had worked for, found that I really liked doing websites, and that there was a whole world of online business that existed that I had no idea about. And so over time, since 2015, I've kind of niched down to health and wellness professionals. Um, when my son was born, we started seeing a chiropractor for some of my health issues. I've been to naturopaths, therapists. Like, I have seen the value of what people in those fields do. And I knew that I could help them with kind of the marketing and the growing the business side. So those are the people that I really love to help.
Mm. Now, when you think about how people screw up their websites, so I gave the example of me doing super shady early website design stuff when I didn't have any clue what I was doing. Like, what do most therapists do wrong on their websites?
Yeah, I hope people are not still trying to keyword stuff and hide it. Google knows that pretty quickly. But one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is they write the headline of their homepage and they make it the name of their practice. That is one of the first things that I see on almost every website is it says either the name of their practice or it says something like feel better or revitalize your health or something really generic. And
I joked for a long time that the amount of websites I see that say there's hope for your family, that they could just as easily be a funeral home as a counseling
yeah,
practice, is just like ridiculous.
yeah. So those generic headlines are a big mistake. Another one that a lot of people just, I think, forget about is making sure that their mobile website looks just as good as the desktop version does. Um, at least 40%, probably more of your traffic is coming on a phone. And so we want to make sure that those people also get a good experience. And then the third mistake that I really see is not making it easy for people to book an appointment with you. Like, they have to run around, they have to click all these links to figure out what you do and how to book with you. We want to make it easy for them.
Yeah. I've noticed, and maybe you're seeing this too, is when people click on, the button that hopefully is in the upper right that says schedule an intake or get started or start counseling. We've noticed that when it goes straight to a calendar first instead of a contact us form, people are seeing higher conversions. And,
Hmm.
and what we're guessing is because then they see, oh, this therapist is available when I'm available first, instead of submitting a form and then not even knowing what's going to happen next. Are you seeing that too, or what? Especially when it comes to people clicking and going from being passive on the website to actually making an appointment, what kind of things are you seeing that help with that?
Yeah, I agree. If you can have an online scheduler where people book at least that first consultation with you online, that helps a lot. A lot of times what people are doing is they're laying in bed at night and they're like, okay, I need help. Now's the time that I can sit on my phone and I can scroll through people. And they may be inquiring at a couple different places. And so if you can actually get them on your calendar instead of saying, fill out an inquiry form, I'll get back to you within 48 hours, you are much more likely to get them booked and be able to help them than them having to wait and, well, now maybe it's not important. Maybe I can't answer the phone when you call me back because my kiddos are running around. So that's really key. And I think the other important piece of getting people to book from your website is giving them the information that they are asking for. People want to know things like, do you work with people like me? Do you take my insurance? And kind of what the service structure looks like. So they want to know, does this make sense for my life and for the budget that I have? And do you work with the people that are experiencing the same things that I do? if we can make that really clear, especially just on that first page of the site, they're much more likely to click over to book that appointment.
And what would that look like? Like, tell me, like, give an example of a therapist, kind of what would that copy look like that you're talking about?
Yeah. So one of the things that I did with a recent therapist that I worked with, we just refreshed her website. And she was one that had just like the name of her business as her headline to start. And we updated it to trauma therapy for military families. It's very clear who she works with, military families. There are not a lot of people in competition for that where she's at. And so it's really easy for them to see exactly who she works with. On her homepage, it says like she does not take insurance, but it says that like, I don't take insurance, but here's how much my services cost. Here's how long you can expect to work with me. And here's the next step, book a call.
Yeah, so super clear. People can visualize what that journey looks like for them. Yeah, I love that. Now, let's think about how people actually get to the website. So we talked a little bit already about, why they book when they're actually there. I think some people are like, man, I have this website. I feel like it's good. I'm not getting traffic. If we were to back up a bit and say what right now seems to be working when it comes to traffic?
People are not going to like to hear this, but SEO is always going to be a big driver of traffic. There are like hundreds of thousands of searches for therapist near me every day. So we want to make sure that we are showing up on Google, on other search results, so that when people are looking for the help that we offer, we actually are appearing in front of them. A big piece of that people had gotten away from is blogging. So writing blogs that address the issues that you might work with, the types of clients that you work with, offering tips. Think about what your average client would type into a search engine, not your jargony language, but what they would type in if they were looking for help with something. And those are the words you want to use on your website, in your blogs, in all of the kind of back end SEO settings.
As a therapist, I can tell you from experience that having the right EHR is an absolute lifeline. I recommend using Therapy Notes. They make billing, scheduling, note-taking, telehealth, and e-prescribe incredibly easy. Best of all, they offer live telephone support that's available 7 days a week. You don't have to take my word for it. Do your own research and see for yourself. Therapy Notes is the #1 highest rated EHR system available today, with a 4.9 out of 5 stars on trustpilot.com and on Google. All you have to do is click the link below or type promo code Joe on their website over at therapynotes.com and receive a special 2-month trial absolutely free. Again, that's therapynotes.com and use promo code Joe on the website. If you're coming from another EHR, Therapy Notes will also import your demographic data quick and easy at no cost, so you can get started right away. Trust me, don't waste any more of your time and try Therapy Notes. Just use promo code Joe at checkout. So I want to ask you then about that, a few things about blogging. So first, at the time of our recording, AI is a pretty big deal. I'm assuming that in the future, it's still going to be a big, if not bigger deal. So how do you think about AI when it comes to writing blog posts and doing SEO?
I like to use AI to help me kind of brainstorm ideas for posts. And then I am able to say, that one doesn't make any sense at all. It's not related to what I do. Or that actually is a good idea. And then I use AI to kind of help me outline what are the big pieces underneath this that I would need to cover in my post. I don't like to use AI to write any further than that because it's really hard to get it to write in your voice, It's not always accurate as far as facts and figures. It will make things up. So we want to make sure that we're actually using information that is correct. And I'm not a lawyer, but it is very difficult to copyright anything that AI has written. So I recommend use it to brainstorm, use it to outline, and then actually write everything out yourself.
Yeah, and right now, would you say that like Google and other search engines, are they able to kind of parse out if it's more AI written compared to human written?
I don't know that search engines can, but people can. If you're ever on Instagram threads, you'll see people talk about like, what are some of the words that AI uses all the time, or the types of punctuation that you can tell something is written by AI. And people do trust that less. So while, yes, we're writing for search engines because we want them to show our site to people, we're also writing for people. And we want to make sure that when they read something, they can tell this was written by a real person, and they get an idea of what we do and what our personality is and what we're like.
Mm. So, just yesterday in our membership community, I was doing a Q&A with some folks, and we were talking about SEO and blogging and organic search. And I want to kind of tell you what I gave as advice and tell me what your thoughts are on it. So this one guy was saying that when it comes to writing blogs, he's like, man, it takes me like 6 or 7 hours to write one blog post. I'm just not a fast writer. And I just said to him, he helped people specifically dealing with PTSD. And I said, well, tell me, like, what are causes of PTSD? And he just starts rattling it off. And I was like, okay, you used a term there that most people aren't familiar with. Like, how do you define that term? Like, what gets in the way of PTSD? Why, like, what are some things that are healthy habits people could do for PTSD? What kind of treatments are there that are more like clinical, like EMDR? In like 3 minutes, he just kicked off like so much information. And I had recommended to him that he just have maybe his assistant or a friend or someone that wasn't a clinical staff, someone that would say, I don't know what that means, to just video him asking questions and then to repurpose those as YouTube videos that they then embed as blog posts, but then have it transcribed and cleaned up through with AI, and then maybe an assistant just scanning through to make those into blog posts. Because it took him 5 minutes to just like dish out probably 1,000 words around this. Like, would you say that's a good technique for people? And what would you adjust in that technique?
That is a good technique. YouTube is very popular, and SEO search engines are also ranking videos from YouTube and even sometimes social media. So if you can kind of speak better than you might write something, if you feel like that's faster, you're more clear, you don't have all the pressure, record yourself on video, like you said, and then you might find that you can get it transcribed with AI. I do recommend having somebody read through it to make sure that it actually makes sense and there's like real punctuation. It's kind of written as a blog post and not a stream of consciousness. And then what I would recommend is when you're turning it into a blog post, just make sure you're kind of chunking it out in sections and use subheadings for those sections. So it's really easy for people to skim to say, okay, if I want to learn about treatments for PTSD, here's the section where we talk about that. If I want to learn about sort of signs and symptoms, here's the section where we talk about that. Subheadings are kind of when Google reads something, they start with the heading 1 and then they go to heading 2, 3, 4, and then they go back to the body text. So we just want to use those not only for the people who are reading, but also to kind of signal these are the most important things and these are the most important topics that I'm covering.
Yeah, I think people scan. I mean, as I've looked at my own reading, it's like I scan just to see, is this even relevant to me? Do I want to
Mm-hmm.
dig in deeper? And I think making sure those headings are super clear. So we covered a lot around kind of organically people finding the website. So blogging, SEO, other things that you would suggest that will point and direct people to the website before we dig into more on getting people to make buying decisions or signing up decisions?
Yeah, If you are somebody who wants to use social media, you can also direct people to your site that way. Most people do that through like a links page. I recommend having your links page on your actual website instead of using one of the other platforms, because that's going to get traffic to your site and not to somebody else's site. And sending people there can be helpful on occasion. It's probably not going to be your biggest traffic driver, but it never hurts to have that available to them.
Yeah. Well, once people get to the site, I know we talked a little bit about making sure it works well on mobile, things like that. What else design-wise should people be doing on their website?
So I always tell people, when somebody lands on your site, we talked about headlines and how we want it to be specific. So the first thing they should see on your site is that headline. You might have a subheading. That's a good place to include any of the specific modalities that you use or your location if you're location specific. And then have that call to action button right under there where they can schedule an appointment or learn more about your services. And from there, we want to introduce people to what you do, but think about it as we are letting people know why we are the right choice and not necessarily why the service that we offer is right. When people come to your website, they probably already know, like, okay, I need somebody to help me with this. We want to say why we are the best person for them and not just why they need help. And I really like to design that in sections. So on a lot of websites, you'll see each section, and then they have like alternating background colors. That's a really good way to do it, just to make it look nice, to make it easily scannable, and to not overwhelm people with paragraphs and paragraphs of information that they don't necessarily care about.
Yeah, I think that's a shift I've really seen is having a homepage have most of the information you need to make a decision to sign up. Even having the calendar or having the contact us form actually on the homepage as you scroll through, instead of having a bunch of pages to go through. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Yeah, it is. I never recommend having only a homepage. That impacts your bounce rate, which just means people come to one page and then they leave. We don't want that to be high. And if only one page of your website exists, it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But the more of that crucial information we can include on the first page somebody's going to land on, the more likely they are to book with us. The other pages exist so that if they have questions and they want to dive deeper, they can. But there are some people who are going to look at one page of your site. They're going to look at a couple of headlines. They're going to say, okay, they've got availability. Let's book. There are other people who are going to want to read the whole thing. That's me. I have to read the whole thing. I read every FAQ. I want to know all the details before I make a decision. And so we want to have a website that includes both, but that it can work for either type of decision maker.
Now, when people are looking at booking, we covered a little bit of this at the beginning. Like, where else are people maybe missing the mark or missing opportunities to just increase kind of outcomes? So one thing that I talk with people about is, if we change your bounce rate by 5%, if we get 5% more people to click on your button, if we get 5% more people to book, 5% more people to schedule that intake and show up, like each of those all add up, and now we have some substantial change. Like, what are other kind of dials that we need to be working on that are going to increase the final amount of intakes coming into a practice?
Yeah, I think one thing people forget is they have that book an appointment button in one place. A lot of times it's in the main menu, but they don't put it anywhere else on the site. And so if somebody reads your whole page, they then have to scroll back up to the top in order to book. And they could get distracted. Something could happen. They could walk away from their computer and they don't remember to do it. So I recommend having that main call to action every like 3 screen lengths when you're scrolling, so that after somebody reads a section and they're like, okay, I get it, I've got the answers that I need, it's really easy for them to click and book. And the less clicks they have to make, the better. So if you send them over to a separate page to book on your calendar, or it just scrolls them further down the page to your calendar that's on your site, that's great. They should only have to fill out the bare minimum of information that you need in order to get them on your calendar. There shouldn't be a whole like huge intake form with all of their health information. To start out with, if I have to go get my insurance card to fill out the information, I'm much less likely to actually complete the whole process. So we just want to make it really quick and simple to get that initial appointment booked. And then you have their information and you can follow up and get everything else that you need.
Yeah, I love that. The amount of times that it's like you have to go get a credit card or you have to go get your insurance card, and it's like, oh, I don't feel like doing that right now. And then you just leave the tab open hoping to remember, and then you just don't. Such good advice. Samantha, if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
I would say that people need the work that you are doing, whether they know it or not. And so your job, beyond helping them, is just to start putting yourself out there and letting people know that help is available, and they will find you and they will come and you will be able to serve more people.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. If people want to find you, if they want to learn from you, get some website help, where should we send them?
My website and social media is all at Lemon and the Sea. It's not a very common name, so it's easy to find. And then I do have website reviews. If you want somebody to look at your website and let you know a couple things you can work on, that's at lemonandthesea.com/review.
So awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
So many great reminders. I think the top one is just keep it simple, keep it clear. Who do you help? What's it look like? Help people visualize that process. Even thinking about practice of the practice, how do we make sure that we are very clear how we help people build a thriving practice they absolutely love? So we say that, but what does that actually look like? So going back to our website, reviewing that, looking at it, that gets me thinking. Also, we couldn't do this show without Therapy Notes, who's our sponsor today. They are the best electronic health records out there. You can use promo code Joe at checkout to get a few months for free. Head on over to therapynotes.com and use promo code Joe to switch over to the best EHR for your electronic health record needs. Also, they do HIPAA-compliant video as part of it and make billing super easy. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.